What is going on, Cuse Nation? Welcome to yet another edition of Orange. My name's Giovanni Heater, as always, and thank you for joining me. Today we welcome Syracuse football senior quarterback Rex Culpepper. Thank you so much for joining us today, Rex.
Thanks, man. Happy to be here.
Of course. So how are you? How have you been keeping yourself busy throughout this whole quarantine?
I've been doing well. I'm definitely lucky to be quarantining in Florida. I got the sun, kind of got to miss out on the end of that Syracuse winter, so there's no complaints coming from me.
So your introduction to football was obviously from day one. Your father played at the University of Florida with the Gators, followed by 9 years in the National Football League. So what was your relationship with him growing up, him playing in the NFL, and how did he influence your passion in the game of football?
Well, I mean, we grew up with all things football, and he was basically like a live-in coach. I mean, he would wake up in the morning, and he would take us to work out, and then later that day he would take us to football. He would run through the route tree with me. He would teach me, how receivers caught the ball with their hands and not their body when I was younger. He has a ton of knowledge because although he played D-line, which, is definitely not the sexiest position out there, he had a lot of friends that were quarterbacks because, he's gravitated towards the smarter guys. So he hung out with quarterbacks like John Lynch and learned a lot about the game and was able to just keep passing the knowledge on to us as we grew up.
So growing up in Florida, had you ever watched Syracuse sports at all, whether it be basketball, football, or were you kind of unknown to it?
Well, actually, my dad, when he was at Florida, they came up to play Syracuse, and it was Syracuse's homecoming game. And they had just come off beating Alabama. They were ranked like 1 or 2 in the nation. And they're like, oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. We're going to walk right over them. And he said they went in the loud house, and he's like, I've never heard something so loud in my entire life. He's like, the first play of the game, they ran a reverse on the kickoff and took it all the way back, and they ended up upsetting them. And I think they finished 12-1 that season, probably would have won the national championship if it weren't for the Syracuse loss. So other than hearing him gripe about that Syracuse loss, I had no idea, really, not much exposure to Syracuse growing up. Obviously, once I got to high school, we started getting recruited. Like you increase your knowledge overall about all the schools out there. But from a young age, Syracuse is just the one team that upset them.
So who were you a fan of growing up? Was it the Gators?
Yeah, it was Florida Gators all the way, Tim Tebow, that Urban Meyer crew. Dad used to go up and speak to the team before big games, so we were very involved with that.
So what was your high school football experience like?
My high school experience was kind of unique because I started my whole junior year, got a lot of playing time. We lost in the second round of the playoffs. You come off that season and went straight to the film room, went straight to the workout room, put on a lot of muscle, spent so much time throwing with receivers and just overall setting up for this huge breakout senior season or state championship run. And then a month before the season, I tore my ACL and didn't end up playing at all my entire senior season. So that was kind of a letdown. And I never really got a chance to kind of be that senior quarterback and have that big year. But, I still got into college, and hopefully this next year Syracuse will bring some excitement.
Yeah, as you said, with a phenomenal junior season, you did get heavily recruited. So can you walk me through your recruiting process? What schools besides Syracuse were involved, and overall, what influenced your decision to go to Syracuse?
Right. So being that I went to Plant High School, and we have a long list of quarterbacks that came ahead of me, Robert Marv, Aaron Murray, Philip Ely. I mean, those guys were big time recruits. So my coach was able to the college coaches that he was friends with and say, hey, I got a quarterback that's coming up. They would come to, I think my junior year spring, we had somewhere between 110 and 130 Division I coaches come. So there was just so much exposure, really. And so when I would go through practice, they would see, I was skinny, but I was 6'3", and I would throw it far and hard. So they would, the offers kind of started flowing in. I ended up with Ohio State. I had Florida. I had Clemson. But a lot of those offers, there was a lot of changing in the coaching staff. And I remember I was sitting in Coach Wiener's office one day. I was my high school coach. He was actually the ISS teacher. So I was sitting in the in-school suspension room hanging out, and a guy with an S on his shirt walked in and sat down. And I didn't even think anything of it. I didn't think it was a recruiting ploy or anything like that. But I just it was Coach Lester. I actually talked to Coach Lester for probably a good hour and just about everything but football. We talked about, younger siblings. We talked about, what he used to do in high school. It was just like a very good down to earth conversation. And that was really the start of the relationship. Um, Obviously I went on the visit and I liked Coach Schaefer and it seemed like a no brainer at the time. So then once I got the news in the middle of rehabbing a torn ACL that those coaches were no longer going to be there, it was kind of a shock to me. But Coach Babers called me like right as soon as he got the job, and so that worked out on that end. But I was recruited out of the older staff.
So how did that influence? Did you at all think like, hey, maybe this isn't the spot for me once they switched coaches to Babers, or were you really high on Dino Babers and had a lot of belief in what he had to offer as well?
Well, he first called me, and I was like, well, okay. When the first when Coach Lester and Shaver got fired, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So then Coach Baber gets hired, and he calls me and says, hey, guess how many yards my quarterback threw for last season? And I was like, I don't know, 4,000 and something, whatever. It was 46 yards from 5,000. Not that detail is important. And I was like, oh, that's a lot of yards. Look it up. Jimmy Garoppolo played for him. This guy's throwing the ball all over the place. And I was like, man, that fires me up. This guy slings it and has a lot of explosive offense. So I would say he set my mind at ease from the first phone call.
That's awesome. So you talked about being recruited by Schaefer and his crew a lot. Did he have any contact with you like, hey, I'm leaving Syracuse? And did he really walk you through the whole transition process at all, or was he just out?
I think that he was just kind of out. I think there wasn't tension between me and him, but I think it was a weird situation that went on with the school, and he kind of parted ways and didn't end up reaching back out to me. He actually didn't take his job until after I was already playing for Syracuse. So I remember talking to Coach Lester. We were upset over a phone call, but there wasn't anything like they didn't start recruiting me to another school or anything like that.
So you were a part of that family from arguably the perfect situation. Your first year is Dino Babers' first year with the team. So what did Coach Babers do on the inside to really build his culture and get everybody to buy in? Yourself, the people that had been there for years prior that really had to buy into a new system, a new coach. How did that all play out?
I think there's two main things that Coach Babers does that kind of give us an edge, even though Syracuse isn't the school that's going to land all the five-star recruits like a Clemson or like an Ohio State. And one of those two things would be the strength staff that he brings in. Coach E's the head strength guy, and he does a phenomenal job getting guys to be in the best shape possible on all ends, not just physical strength, but also functional strength and flexibility, things like that. So I think that when he brings Coach E, that's half the game to make all the recruits into the best athletes possible. And then the second part of that would be that because we have a fast-paced offense, we kind of have an edge. We kind of have an equalizer. So, on paper, Clemson's DBs are going to be faster than all of our receivers. But once you're 7-8 plays down a drive and we're in better physical condition because of the conditioning and strength that Coach E's put us through, now everything's equal. Now, us at 90% is better than them at they're 75, 80% because they don't have the conditionings that we have. And I think that those two things, when they're working together in unison, that's why we can beat teams like Clemson when they have all the advantages.
So when did you first really buy into what Dino and his staff had to offer? Was it that first phone call, or was it after being on campus for a while, seeing how other players were responding?
I would say that I didn't really have any reason not to buy in. It was just kind of like, wow, I'm coming out of high school and I'm going to college and whatever I've grown up Southern football. You don't ask why, you just do what your coach says. So when I got there and this offense is what they do, that was all I knew. And so I was all in. Heck, I didn't know any better, and there isn't any better to be known.
Yeah, was that no huddle offense really attractive to you as a quarterback?
I don't think I even put that much thought into it because I just saw the amount of yardage and games won and points that they put up. And I was like, well, whatever they're doing works. So I'm not going to criticize it.
So What went into the decision for you to redshirt your freshman year in 2016?
I was still rehabbing my ACL, and obviously Eric Dungy was, all that a quarterback could be for a college quarterback. Shout out to him. He was a great leader and role model for me. And then Zach Mahoney was a seasoned veteran, and also back then there wasn't that rule about where you could play 4 games. So
Right.
I just kind of found myself as behind those two guys, and so redshirting and helping the team out my 5th year I would be able to, do more for this team my 5th year than I would my true freshman year, especially coming off an ACL. So it was kind of a perfect storm.
This next question is kind of unique. So you've done it for about 4 years now, roughly. How different is the spring ball compared to that camp leading into the season, the summer camp?
I would say that the main difference between the two is spring ball is much more inclusive because you're playing for yourself at the end of spring ball. It's just a big scrimmage, so everybody gets reps, everybody gets a chance. Practices are usually longer just because of how many sets of guys get in and how many reps are done. Whereas camp starts out kind of broad like that with a lot of people getting. But as camp goes on, it becomes more and more specialized and more game planned for the first game, to the point where if you're not a 1 or 2, then you're not gonna be getting offensive or defensive reps. You're gonna be on scout team because you kind of have to hone in and get ready to play real football games.
So your redshirt freshman season in 2017 was probably the most time on the field that you have spent throughout a season anyways in your college career. You appeared in kickoffs, you played a lot of quarterback, and you even started against Boston College going 24 for 34 for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. So how were you able to still play a significant role with Dungy as the starter, and how did it feel to get that late November start inside the Dome on a Saturday?
Um, well, injuries were kind of the reason that I got on the field at quarterback. Eric had hurt his foot, and I remember it was Thanksgiving break, so we had no school, and I was able to spend the entire day in the film room learning as much as I could and kind of cramming to play Boston College. So it gave me a good opportunity to get my feet underneath me because although I had played in the games leading up to that, I was still kind of on scout team here and there and hadn't got very many reps. So that first start at Boston College actually gave me an opportunity to be the starter for like a week and not just kind of be thrown into the fire as injuries happen. So.
Can you talk about beating Clemson in the Dome that year? You were a huge part of it on the sideline as far as keeping the team honed in, motivating the team, and just bringing that energy to the Carrier Dome. Can you speak about that?
I don't think I needed to do a single thing. The student section was out of control that game. Um, everyone was just going nuts. Every positive play for us, it seemed like the whole dome was a cohesive unit, and it was really special. And I hope we can replicate that this season.
Absolutely. That was definitely my favorite memory being inside the Carrier Dome. Rex, you faced a battle with cancer off the field and you went back home to Tampa to receive your treatment. So, how in touch were you able to stay with the Syracuse football program during that time?
Well, it's similar to now. I mean, now all the whole team's all back home. We're all at our different houses, but we're all together on texting each other and on Snapchat and Instagram, and that's kind of how it was for me. I was home in Tampa, but had a lot of my closest friends on the team, so they would reach out over Snapchat, over Instagram. They would call me, and that just speaks volumes to the type of recruits that we end up getting. Um, they're great guys, and we have a great cohesive team. So I was able to stay in communication with them.
Were you able to also stay in communication with the coaches as well?
Yeah, I would talk on the phone with coaches from present and past all the time. It helped me to get through it because you talk on the phone for 30 minutes and all of a sudden that 30 minutes has gone by and I'm that much closer to coming home from treatment. So it gave me a good opportunity to kind of stay in touch.
That's awesome. Have you ever spoken with women's basketball star Tiana Monacahia? She's experiencing some similar struggles as you did.
Right. Tiana and I are actually great friends. I've talked to her a couple times. She's a stud, and she's gonna take over the world next year with her basketball and her story. So I'm very excited for her. We're actually friends long before, but this happened to either one of us. So we've talked about we talked about cancer-related things. We talked about social-related things. We just had just a great friendship throughout college.
So in the 2018 spring game, you made your first return to the field in the Dome in front of an audience, and on the final offensive drive, you threw a touchdown pass to tight end Ravian Pierce, and it became the highlight of the night. How special was that moment back on the field with your teammates? And the momentum really continued. So what did that feeling feel like being on that field with the support of your teammates once again?
It was amazing to me because, as you said, I came off that Boston College start, and I felt like I had some good momentum to get some playing time. Then all of a sudden, I'm dealing with cancer, and uh, it's looking like my football career is in jeopardy. And to be able to go out on the field without having gone through spring and without having gone through the practices and film and still be able to have success and throw a touchdown, it gave me the confidence to know, like, okay, Rex, like, you got 3 more and basically 2 more months of cancer treatment, and you're not going to be able to go through that spring that you missed, but you still remember everything. You can still do it, like, have confidence in yourself. So it was so much peace of mind for me going into the next rounds of treatment, knowing that, this might mess up my body, but I can fix those things. I'm still going to be able to play quarterback.
Dino had told you earlier that week that you weren't going to get to go in at all in that game. What did that kind of feel like to have your number called?
It was definitely unexpected. I had an assistant coach who I can't name because I got to protect their confidentiality, but they told me, hey, Rex, you got to start warming up. So that was good because I got to kind of loosen my arm up before I ran out, but I really did have no idea that I was going to get a drive. Because Coach Baber's just like, are you kidding me? If I put you out there and you get hurt, what is it going to look like that I had a cancer patient out there getting run over by somebody? So it was a total surprise, but it worked out for the better.
So the momentum certainly continued into your redshirt sophomore season because it was historic, 10-3 on the year with a Camping World Bowl victory. So can you just really walk me through that historic season and the vibes on the team win after win?
I mean, it was definitely just a cohesive effort by us players and buying into what the coaches had to say. Obviously, my on the field roles weren't as big as I would have liked, but Eric's been one of my best friends and role models, so I'm extremely happy for him. A lot of those guys that came in a year before me are some of my best friends, and it was really special to see how everybody gravitated towards each other and kind of just went all in.
It's interesting you say that about Eric because he says a lot of the same things about you. I don't know if you've seen some of his press conferences, but I watched a video and he said there were his 2 biggest inspirations in his life, and it was his father and you through your battle, getting back on the field, just your mindset and everything like that. So it's kind of cool. It shows the family that Syracuse football program has to offer when your 2 quarterbacks are saying the same thing about each other. So how did that team really regather and not roll over and play dead, so to speak, after losing 2 straight on the road at Clemson and at Pittsburgh?
I think that when we played the game after that, we kind of just realized how good we actually were and that it wasn't a mistake and that, we could play – we didn't have to play exceptional football to win. We could just be ourselves and play good football to win. And I think that kind of set in and we realized, whoa, like, that was a Clemson team that went on to be in the national championship. And that was a Pitt team at home in a game where we should have won. We had a huge rain delay. We're away at Pittsburgh. We got nothing to our daily schedule. We didn't really have anything to eat that whole day. It was just tough. So it was kind of like, we went from playing national champions to a super tough situation to then kind of getting to settle in and realize how good we were.
Rex, you had the opportunity. You went down to Clemson your freshman season and you dressed. And then once again, you got to play at Clemson that year in 2018. What's the atmosphere like there?
I would say the best way to describe it is wild. I mean, the stadium is just a V, and they're bringing it the whole time. It's similar to the Dome. They just have probably more numbers and more people out scattered around the field, but
they don't have a roof.
They don't have a roof. I would say that we can get louder than them, but they're consistently louder than we are consistently.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Can you talk about the atmosphere of Bowl Week down in Orlando, Florida, not too far from your hometown? What's kind of the vibe? Syracuse fans coming from across the country joining you guys down there. Was it like one big celebration?
Yeah, it was kind of weird seeing everybody in shorts and in the middle of December, but I think it was great that everyone got to kind of get out of the cold for a good reason and come down and lay out by the pool and enjoy Orlando. And then, not to mention, we went and took care of business on the field and got a win. So we got the whole celebration afterwards. It ended up just being like the perfect climax to an amazing season.
Now, that season, you actually switched positions to tight end at the midway point of the year, and then now you're back at the quarterback position. So, what really went into that decision for you, and how'd you switch back again?
Right. So I just kind of found myself at a point on the depth chart where I wasn't going to get an opportunity at quarterback. And, I'm a bigger guy, strong guy. I was like, man, I just want to get on the field somehow. I'll get back on special teams. Um, I wanted to get in at some tight end, but I wasn't really able to get down all the mechanics of it enough. And then once once the season ended and everything kind of settled down with the seniors leaving, quarterback's always been my love, and just kind of put my head to the grindstone and man, I'm going to play quarterback and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get ready, get my body in shape. And so that's kind of why I switched back, just because it's always been my true love to play that position.
This past season in 2019 wasn't exactly what Syracuse fans and even on a national stage people expected going in, but what really happened that caused the season to not be as successful as anticipated?
I don't think it was any one thing. I think it was just a culmination of a lot. It's obviously kind of hard to come off such a big season with so much hype and then get your hands dirty working again. I think that our team was so incredibly hungry the year before. It's like, man, we've just been losing and losing and losing, and it's maybe it got to our heads a little bit, but I don't think there was any real one thing that contributed. Um, we just didn't live up to expectations, and I think that, quite frankly, we just needed to put in more work in the off season and work harder ultimately than we did.
It's very clear that you value your education. You were a 7-time SU Athletic Director's Honor Roll selection and a 3-time ACC Honor Roll member, and that's still counting with a year left at Syracuse. So how are you able to balance both being a student and an athlete with things like traveling on the road every week?
Sometimes you got to sacrifice sleep. You got to stay up late, get work done early. The teachers, I was in Newhouse. I've since graduated from there, but the teachers at Newhouse are extremely willing to work, and got to tip my cap to them that they understood the challenges I faced as an athlete and were very liberal with deadlines and helping me perform the best in their classes. So that's just a testament to them.
It's funny you say that. That's my dream school, is to go to Newhouse in the fall of 2021. What did you major in, and what was that like there?
Oh, I wanted to do broadcasting. I think they got the big newsroom in there, and they're known for it. But the class block schedule wasn't going to work with football, so I ended up doing advertising.
Okay.
So I graduated 4 years with a degree in advertising from Newhouse. So that's what I've got right now.
Do you think broadcasting something you might ever get into after football career's over?
I don't know. You see, Tony Romo is making more than he ever made in the NFL.
That's a
That
good
doesn't
point.
look like a bad gig to me.
Absolutely. So, Rex, this upcoming year will be your final year at Syracuse. And assuming that we will have a college football season, whether it's later on than normal or whatever, we're fingers crossed that it's going to go on normally what it would at the beginning of September. But what is the mentality for you and expectations going into this season?
It's my last season, so if I get my chance out there, I'm not trying to look back. I'm not going to play timid. I'm not going to feel bad about taking chances. I'm going to just kind of go all out. If I got to run the ball and take some hits, whatever. It's my last year. I'm not worried about getting hurt. I'm just going to go out there and play my hardest.
What role on the team do you expect to play this season?
All I can really focus on is getting myself in the best shape possible, becoming the best athlete I can be in terms of strength and flexibility. And then from there, it's going to be a coach's decision as to what he wants to do. But I'd hope that my activity on the field would be a lot more than it has been the last 2 seasons.
Absolutely. All right, Rex, before we wrap it up, a little speed round for you. We'll fire some quick questions at you with some quick responses. So, where is the toughest place to play on the road?
Clemson by far. Actually, wait. Louisville when it rains.
Okay. Not Florida State either?
I don't. We play some tough opponents, but I would say when it's raining and cold at Louisville, it is kind of miserable.
Okay. All right. Okay. So next, who in the ACC has the best stadium?
I would
This is a
say
trick question. You should say the Dome.
I gotta say Syracuse. But in terms of an away team, I would probably say Clemson just because they have nicer facilities for the away team, which is kind of a rarity sometimes.
Okay. Do you prefer the old uniforms that we had when you first got on campus or the new ones that we just got last season?
I like them both. I like the new ones with the kind of the retro throwback feel, but I also like the old uniforms and all the 44 shout outs that they had engraved and stitched in those uniforms.
Awesome. So I hear that you were one of the best dressed on the team. You got the hair going on as well, which I love. So what goes into these elaborate outfits?
Well, I'm not scared to wear something crazy. A lot of the guys are, they only want to wear true religion or certain things, but me, I'm gonna dress up and go too far and wear wigs and just kind of have fun and draw attention. So.
Who's your favorite teammate if you had to pick one?
I can't answer that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Where's your favorite place to eat on the SU campus?
I'm gonna go ahead and go off SU campus and say Mother's Cupboard.
Okay.
Hands down, best breakfast place in Syracuse. I've been going there for 4 straight years, probably 2 to 3 times a week. Those are my guys in there, and it feels like a family every time I walk in. So Mother's Cupboard, I gotta say it.
Okay, you've had a few number changes on your jersey since going to Syracuse. So what was the decision behind that?
17 has always been the number that I wanted to be, but I got there and Jamal Custis had it. So, he was an offensive stud, and I was just a little freshman. I wasn't going to try to talk him out of it. So once he left, though, I got my 17 back.
Cool. So can you tell me, is there, as PG as possible, is there a funniest story off the field that you have with your Syracuse teammates? Or maybe not with your teammates, just being at Syracuse?
I wasn't prepared for this question, so I don't really have a story set up. I would say that one of the funniest, one of the most iconic, fun things that me and some teammates have done was when me, Eric, Kylan Whitner, and Ryan Guthrie decided to do a Christmas card photo shoot in front of Inslee. So there's some pictures in front of Inslee of us. We went to Goodwill, got some amazing outfits. We pulled our trucks up. We had one of our friends named Roy pull his Mercedes in the middle. There's a couple pictures of us on a motorcycle. I'm doing a wheelie through the front. So it was a fun time. And there's some gyms out on Instagram if you want to go find them.
Awesome. Okay, last question. This one's for the fans, Rex. You got one more year left here. What does Syracuse mean to you?
I would say that Syracuse was pivotal in helping me get through one of the toughest struggles of my life, beating cancer and just having the fan base, having the team, having the coaches all behind me. It was something that I don't know if anyone would be able to replicate just because it was so important to me and meant so much.
Great answer. Rex, thank you so much for joining me here today. I appreciate it, and you were beyond a pleasure to interview.
Thank you, man. Good luck getting into Newhouse. You'll love it there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good luck on the field this season, and I certainly hope to see you out there. For Rex Culpepper, my name is Giovanni Heater. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.